I thought I was asking a simple question. When can I see my grandkids? Jason replied instantly, "We're tired of you. Stay away." I dropped my phone. Not from shock, from clarity. "No, sorry, we're busy." Just banishment, like I was some stray they'd finally gotten tired of feeding. My jaw clenched. My hands shook. Not with sadness, with rage. I'd buried my husband. I'd raised Jason on my own. I paid their rent. I fed their kids. My name's still on the deed to that lake cabin they use like it's already theirs. And now they were tired of me? No. I opened the family group chat. Years of memories in those little blue bubbles. Birthdays, baby's first steps, Jason's job promotion, Amber's annoying inspirational quotes. I stared at the photo of Lily on her 3rd birthday, me behind her, both of us laughing, faces lit with joy. I'd posted that. Now I was being told to disappear. My thumb hovered over leave group, but I didn't press it. Let them kick me out. I wasn't running this time. You want to push me out? Good luck. You forgot something. My name's still on the deed to the lake cabin. The one you tell your friends is ours. The one Jason offered to manage after your father died, promising to keep it in the family. You think I'm old and alone and easy to erase? Watch me. That text was just a match. Now I'm watching the whole house catch fire. And the best part? They won't even smell the smoke until it's licking at their ankles. Because what Jason and Amber don't know is this. I've already spoken to my lawyer once this year, quietly, just to see. And now? Now I'm booking the appointment. Now I'm done playing sweet. I wiped my eyes. Not tears, just smoke from bridges finally burning. I sat at the kitchen table the next morning, same chair I'd always used. My coffee had gone cold. The room was still. I kept rereading that message. "We're tired of you, stay away." The words didn't sting any less in daylight. But something else crept in, a doubt I hated myself for. Maybe they were just overwhelmed. Jason worked 60-hour weeks. Amber was never good with stress, especially when her own parents kept flaunting money like it grew on trees. Maybe I caught them on a bad night. Maybe I was too persistent. Maybe I slammed my hand on the table, the sound sharp in the silence. No, not again. I am not doing this again. This is how they trained me. Guilt and excuses like sugar on poison. Yes, Jason was tired. But he still had time to take his golf clubs to Tahoe last fall. Amber still had time to book family photos at that overpriced vineyard, the ones they never sent me a copy of. I remembered her crying in my arms 5 years ago, saying they couldn't afford daycare. I'd rearranged my whole life to help. Babysat, cooked, cleaned. When Jason lost a client, I loaned them $5,000. No interest, no questions, just love. They never paid it back, never even mentioned it again. But I let it go, because that's what mothers do, right? I looked up at the family photo still hanging on the hallway wall, taken at the cabin, everyone smiling. Amber had chosen matching navy blue outfits. Jason had grilled steaks. Lily had run to me every 5 minutes just to say, "Nana, look." That was only 2 summers ago. How do people change so fast? Or maybe they don't. Maybe they just stop pretending. I picked up the photo and set it face down on the table. The truth was clear. They didn't become cruel overnight. I just stopped pretending it was love when it was control. They didn't forget me. They discarded me. And the scariest part? I almost helped them do it. But not anymore. If they wanted me gone, fine. Let them find out what gone really looks like. They thought I had nothing. That was their first mistake. I could hear Amber's voice in my head. Soft, patronizing. She's on a fixed income now. She doesn't need the cabin, it's just sitting there. We'll take good care of it for the family. I used to nod. I used to agree. Let them act like it was theirs. I told myself I didn't need it anymore, not at my age. But that was before they told me to stay away. Now I remembered something they had conveniently forgotten. That deed, it's still in my name. I pulled the file drawer open in the study. Second drawer down, labeled Property and Taxes. Everything in my life was labeled, that's what happens when you run a house alone for 40 years. There it was, Pine Hollow Cabin. Title copy original, notarized in 1997, Joint ownership transferred to me when Robert died. Amber never asked. Jason never bothered to check. They just assumed. Like they assumed I'd die quietly in the background and leave them everything. $600,000, last time I checked. Probably more now, with the housing bubble. Lakefront. Private dock. 2 renovated bedrooms. Stone fireplace. Newer septic. Every summer they paraded their friends through it like it was their vacation home. But that cabin? It was mine before Amber knew how to spell mortgage. I stared at the papers, my fingers tracing the embossed seal. Suddenly, my hands didn't shake anymore. I thought about what it meant, what I could do. Rent it, sell it, donate it to the church, let a halfway house use it, anything, but let them keep acting like it was their legacy. And I thought about Lily and Max, my grandbabies, how they'd run down the hill toward the lake, giggling, bare feet slapping dirt, shouting, "Nana, come swim with us." I pressed my palm flat on the title page. This wasn't revenge. This was reclamation. Let them post their filtered family photos and tell their friends they're making memories at the lake. Let them brag about the cabin in the group chat they just kicked me out of. Because next summer, they'll need a key to get in, and I'm changing the locks. The next morning, I put on my church coat, the one with the deep navy color and the heavy gold buttons. I hadn't worn it since Robert's funeral. It didn't smell like mothballs. It smelled like decision. Rain tapped against the windshield as I drove downtown, slow and steady, like a warning drumbeat. I parked across from the stone building with ivy crawling up the side. Inside, everything felt warm, safe, but underneath, sharp. I'd called the office at 7:58 a.m. sharp. The receptionist still sounded half asleep. "Tell Mr. Ellis it's Margaret Kane," I said. "He'll remember me." He did. The waiting room was quiet, the kind of place that doesn't scream money, but whispers power. Margaret. Mr. Ellis stood as I entered. Same gray temples, same kind eyes. But this time, I didn't need comfort. I needed action. I sat down across from him, coat still buttoned. "I'd like to make some changes to my estate plan," I said, pulling the cabin deed from my purse. He raised an eyebrow. "Everything okay?" I slid my phone across the table. The screen was still lit. "We're tired of you. Stay away." He read it. He didn't rush. He didn't gasp. He just sat with it. Then he looked up, nodded slowly. "You don't have to keep them in your will, Margaret. You can redirect everything. The cabin, your savings, any residual, to where it will matter." I nodded. Mr. Ellis unlocked the bottom drawer of his desk, pulled out a blank packet and clicked his pen. "You want to make it official?" I paused. There was a part of me, the mother part, that wanted to wait, to give them time, to hope they'd call, apologize, explain, that it was a mistake, a bad day, a misstep. But I've spent a lifetime waiting for men to come home, for kids to apologize, for people to treat me like I mattered. No more waiting. "Let's begin," I said. And just like that, my future started belonging to me again. My name looked strange in that signature line. Margaret L. Kane. All neat loops and lines, like it meant nothing. Like it wasn't about to end decades of love, debt, sacrifice, and pretending. I held the pen a moment too long. Mr. Ellis didn't rush me, just waited, calm and quiet, like a priest at confession. My hand shook. Was I disowning my son? The thought sat on my chest like lead. Jason, with his baby curls and scraped knees. Jason, who used to cry when I left for work. Jason, who once made me a Mother's Day card out of glitter and printer paper and misspelled queen as queen. I could still hear his little voice in my ear. "Nana, you're my queen." I squeezed my eyes shut. Would I die alone if I did this? Would the hospital call no one when I passed? Would my funeral be empty? Just some pastor reading Psalm chapter 23 over a donated coffin? I opened my eyes again. The legal papers stared back, cold but fair. The inheritance would now go to 2 places. The pediatric wing of St. Agnes Hospital, where Robert and I used to volunteer, and the church canteen that fed 100 families a week, and still asked if I wanted a seat at the table. Neither had ever told me to stay away. I signed the first page, then the next, then the last. The tremor eased with each stroke of the pen. This wasn't revenge. It was clarity. Jason didn't want me, but someone else would want that warm cabin someday. A nurse's family, maybe? A foster mom with 5 kids and no backyard. Some tired stranger who just needed a soft bed and the smell of pine trees to believe life could still be kind. Mr. Ellis slid the copies into a thick envelope, stamped and sealed. "Would you like me to send them directly to your bank in the county office?" he asked. I nodded. My throat wouldn't work. Outside, the rain had stopped. The street glistened with leftover tears. As I walked to my car, a gust of wind caught my coat and lifted the hem like a curtain. For a second, I felt 17 again. Light, capable, whole. They let go of me. So now, finally, I let go of them. Sunday came like it always does. Same hymns, same cold pews, same polite greetings. But everything felt different. I wore a modest gray blouse and my wedding ring, not because I still believed in the marriage, but because I needed armor. At communion, Father James met my eyes and gave me a knowing nod. I'd forgotten how perceptive he was. After the service, I lingered. It was habit. You shake hands. You pretend things are fine. You smile at babies you'll never hold. He found me near the bulletin board, reading about the bake sale I wasn't asked to join. "Margaret," he said gently, like my name was something fragile. "Will you be joining family for Mother's Day next week?" I opened my mouth to lie, something light like, "Oh, they're planning something," or, "We'll see, Father," but nothing came out. I shook my head. There it was, that pause, that awkward beat, the kindness in his eyes folded into something tighter, warmer, but heavier. Pity. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. I nodded once, like a curtain falling. Behind me, 2 women whispered. Probably nothing to do with me, but I still felt it. Not rejection. Not anymore. Something more invisible. Erasure. I walked slowly to the church canteen. The volunteer table I used to sit at was already full. I didn't expect a seat. I just wanted to see something familiar. That's when Sister Colleen caught my hand. "You haven't signed up for the donation roster this month," she said, tilting her head. "I've had a change in plans." Her eyes flicked to my face. She didn't ask. She just squeezed my fingers and handed me a pen. "I left you Tuesday mornings," she whispered. "We could use your casseroles." Something in me cracked. I signed the sheet. If I couldn't sit at my son's table, I'd feed people who wanted to eat. As I left the church, the sun caught the stained glass and painted gold across my hands. I stood there, letting it warm my skin. It wasn't Mother's Day yet, but I could already feel the ache of it. And this year, no brunch invitation would be coming. It showed up in my feed at 6:43 p.m. a perfect photo. Jason and Amber, all smiles, flanked by Lily and Max, holding plates of food and wine glasses. The caption read, "Family dinner nights, where love is homemade." I stared at it for a full minute. They were sitting at my dining table. The same one Robert and I bought at that warehouse sale in '92, the one we sanded and refinished by hand while Jason played in the yard. The same table they told me I was no longer welcome to sit at. The glow in their faces didn't bother me. The posed laughter didn't either. What got me was the chandelier above their heads. It was a gift from my mother. Jason hated it growing up, said it looked like Grandma's jewelry exploded. Amber wanted to replace it when they moved in. I said no, not while I was still alive. But there it was, hanging above them like a punchline. I clicked on the comment box. My fingers hovered. I could say so much. I could remind them of everything. The babysitting, the money, the sleepless nights, the holidays I hosted when Amber's parents didn't want them. I could say, "You told me to stay away. Don't smile now." But I didn't. Instead, I typed, "I'll be thinking of the Children's Hospital when they see this generosity," and pressed send, It was live for exactly 4 minutes and 22 seconds, long enough for 5 likes. 1 shocked face emoji. 2 comments beneath mine, one saying, and the other saying, "Wait, what's going on?" Then the post disappeared. Deleted. Vanished like it had never happened. I didn't say a word. I just stood at my kitchen sink, watching the sun go down over the fence line, the way I used to when Jason was still playing in the yard. They knew exactly what I meant. And now, someone else did too, because the hospital already had the paperwork. My donation hadn't gone through yet, but the intention was filed. Official. Documented. Amber was careful about appearances. Always had been. But you can't unring a bell. And I just let the first one ring. The knock came just after dark. Not frantic. Not loud. Just 2 gentle raps on the back door. The one real friends still use. I opened it to find Mrs. Wong standing there, wrapped in a shawl and holding a steaming bowl in both hands. "Hot and sour soup," she said. "My mother's recipe, good for storms." Or sadness. I didn't know what to say. My mouth opened, then closed again. She stepped inside without waiting to be invited, like she knew I wouldn't stop her. She placed the bowl on the counter like it belonged there. "I saw what you wrote," she said quietly, not turning around. "On that Facebook post." My heart skipped. She finally looked up at me. Good. Just that. 1 word. But it landed like a blessing. I poured 2 cups of tea. We sat at the little kitchen table. The smaller one now, since they took the big oak one. Rain tapped against the window. She didn't press, she didn't gossip. She just said, "You've given that family everything. We all see it." I blinked hard. "I'm not trying to make a scene." "You didn't. They did, you just stopped pretending." It was quiet again, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional clink of her spoon against the bowl. Then she said something I didn't expect. "My daughter stopped talking to me 3 years ago, said I was too critical of her parenting. I haven't seen my grandson since he was 4. I looked up. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "We carry so much. And still cook soup." I nodded. My throat felt thick. She reached into her coat and pulled out a folded flyer. "The church is collecting clothes for the shelter next week. They're short on volunteers. You'd be perfect. You know sizes. You know people." I took the paper, ran my fingers over the edges. Something to do. Somewhere to be. "I'll be there," I said. She stood, straightened her shawl. "Good," she said again. "Don't let them crush you." After she left, I sat at the table, sipping the broth slowly. It filled my kitchen with warmth I hadn't felt in weeks. No manipulation, no shame. Just soup, and kindness that didn't ask for anything in return. The call came the next evening, just after dinner. I almost didn't answer. I don't pick up numbers I don't recognize anymore. It's safer that way. But something in the area code made me pause. Jason's sister, Laura. We hadn't spoken in nearly a year, not because of any big falling out, just life, space, and the quiet drift that happens when you're not the center of anyone's world anymore. I picked up. "Hi, Aunt Laura," I said softly, the old habit still there. She sighed. Like she was relieved, I answered. "Hi, Margaret. I wasn't sure if you'd..." "Listen, I know things are tense. Tense. That's what they call exile now. I saw what happened on Facebook," she continued. "Amber's post, your comment, and now Jason's all wound up, saying you're changing the will." There it was. I didn't respond. I let the silence stretch. I wanted to hear it from you," she said. "Please tell me you're not really cutting him off?" Her voice cracked just slightly. The good daughter. The one who never fought for much, but still clung to the idea of family harmony like a drowning woman clutching a tablecloth. I took a deep breath. "They told me to stay away, Laura. They said they were tired of me." "I know," she said quickly, "and that was awful, I agree, but don't let one fight ruin everything." One fight. I felt something hot crawl up my throat. I stood and walked slowly to the window, looking out at the dark backyard where Jason used to build snowmen with Robert. Laura, this wasn't one fight. This was the final crack in something that's been breaking for years. There was a long pause. Then, quieter. He's still your son. I know, I said. That's why this hurts. Her voice softened, like she thought she had me. So maybe just talk to them? Before it's too late? Too late. I looked at the envelope on my desk, the copy of my new will, the hospital's thank you letter beside it. I swallowed hard. It already is. Laura didn't argue, didn't plead, just said, okay, in a voice that knew the weight of those two words. We said our goodbyes, politely, gently, like people who both knew something sacred had shifted. I hung up and sat down on the edge of my bed, staring at nothing. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clean. No more second-guessing. No more half-truths. No more waiting for someone to treat me like I mattered. I placed the will in the drawer beside my bed, gently, not like a weapon, not like revenge, like something sacred. The envelope was thick, the paper stiff and final. I could still smell the ink. Something about it felt more real than anything my family had said in the last 5 years. It was done now, signed, witnessed, filed. I sat on the edge of the bed, hands folded in my lap like a schoolgirl waiting for permission. But no one was coming. And for once, that felt like relief, not rejection. Across from me, on the small desk I kept for letters and bills, sat the thank you letter from St. Agnes Children's Hospital. Cream-colored paper, a tiny blue lamb printed at the top. Your commitment to our pediatric expansion wing means countless lives will be touched by your generosity. I touched the page lightly, like it might bruise. They'd called after receiving the letter from Mr. Ellis. The woman on the phone sounded stunned, not just grateful, stunned. She called me Margaret, not ma'am or donor or estate. She asked me if I'd ever like to visit the wing once it opened. They love when people read to them, she'd said. Would you ever consider? I had to cover my mouth with my hand. Not because I was crying, but because for the first time in weeks, I felt like I was being asked to exist. Not as a burden, not as a bank, just as a person. I looked back at the drawer. Jason would be furious. Amber would spiral, embarrassment layered over entitlement, like frosting on rot. But I wouldn't be there for it. I had casseroles to deliver, soup to stir, a hospital wing to tour. I had mornings to wake up without waiting for someone to need me only when it suited them. They would say I was cruel. Let them. I chose peace over pretending. I chose truth over tradition. I chose strangers who saw me over family who erased me. I turned off the lamp beside the bed and laid down, one hand resting lightly on the drawer. I didn't dream of Jason that night. I dreamed of laughter in sterile hallways, of tiny shoes running down tiled floors, of sticky hands clutching my fingers and calling me Nana without shame. The message came through email, not text. Amber's version of formality. The subject line read, "Dinner?" I stared at it for 5 minutes before opening it, like it might bite. Inside. Hi, Margaret. Jason and I were hoping we could meet for dinner, just the 4 of us, to clear the air. No pressure, of course. We just think it would be good to talk in person. We've all been emotional lately. Life's too short for grudges. I almost laughed. Clear the air, she meant. Undo the damage. She meant put everything back where it was. Me quiet, useful, invisible. I closed the laptop and made myself a cup of tea. Sat at the kitchen table. Let the rain hit the windows. Then I picked up the phone. Mr. Ellis? It's Margaret. Do you like Italian? 2 nights later, we met at Valentino's, the place Amber always insisted on for anniversaries and business dinners. Candlelit, soft music, high prices, performative class. Their scene. I arrived 5 minutes early. Mr. Ellis was already there, seated at a table near the back, tie slightly askew, expression calm. You ready for this? He asked. I nodded, sliding into the seat beside him. Let's see how much they remember about manners. They walked in at 6:57 on the dot. Amber's smile was bright and brittle. Jason looked like he'd swallowed a mouthful of gravel. Hi, Mom, he said carefully, eyes flicking to Mr. Ellis. Amber froze for a split second, just long enough to show the crack. "We weren't expecting you to bring company," she said, pulling her coat off in one sharp motion. "I thought it might help keep things clear," I said, folding my napkin. "Since we're clearing the air," we ordered. Small talk filled the space. Tight, rehearsed, uncomfortable. Jason asked about my garden. Amber complimented my earrings. I sipped my water and waited. Finally, after the bread arrived, Amber leaned in slightly. "Margaret, we were really sorry to see your comment on Facebook. It made things complicated." I said. "That was the point." Jason cleared his throat. "We didn't mean for things to escalate like this. We just wanted some space. That's all. Families fight." "Yes," I said. "And some families lie." "Which brings us to dessert." I reached into my bag and pulled out the printouts. Time to return the favor. The restaurant hummed around us. Quiet conversations, the soft clink of forks, the smell of garlic and roasted tomatoes. But our table? Still. Tense. Amber kept adjusting her napkin like it might fold into a better version of this moment. Jason kept checking his watch, pretending not to. Me? I let the silence stretch. People always rush to fill silence, especially guilty people. "Thank you for dinner," I said finally, folding my hands neatly in front of me. "It's nice to sit down together. I used to think that's what families did." Jason opened his mouth, but I raised one hand, slow and polite, and reached into my purse. I pulled out a printed screenshot and slid it across the white tablecloth, right into the candlelight. Blue bubble. White background. "We're tired of you. Stay away." Amber's face went blank. Jason blinked, swallowed. "Mom!" I slid another sheet forward. A printed comment, bold in black ink. "I'll be thinking of the children's hospital when they see this generosity." Their eyes flicked toward each other, and then toward Mr. Ellis, who hadn't spoken a word. "We were upset," Amber said finally, her voice light. "We didn't mean it that way." Jason nodded too quickly. "We never wanted to hurt you." "I believe that," I said, still calm. "But wanting and doing are two different things." The waiter approached with a dessert tray. No one even looked. He sensed it. The tension, the clamped jaws, the low hum of something just under the surface. "Would you like a moment?" he asked. "We're fine," I said. Amber's eyes flashed. "Margaret, what exactly is this? A guilt trip? Public shaming?" Mr. Ellis cleared his throat. "This is documentation and clarity." Jason leaned back in his chair. "Oh, come on." I cut him off. Gently. "No, you don't get to, come on me anymore." I tapped the paper in front of them. "You told me to stay away, so I did. And now I'm making sure I stay gone. Properly." Amber's face started to crack then. Just a hairline fracture, but enough. Jason's jaw clenched. The posture of a man who just realized the ground beneath him isn't stable anymore. "This isn't about revenge," I said. "This is about truth." And then Mr. Ellis reached into his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. Legal weight, sealed, and final. "Let's move on to the second course," I said. Mr. Ellis didn't make a scene. He simply set the folder down with both hands, centered it between the candles and the tiramisu no one ordered. Amber's fingers twitched. Jason leaned forward, voice low. "What is this?" Mr. Ellis unfastened the clasp. "Your mother asked me to formalize some updates to her estate." Amber tried to laugh. "This can't be serious." But her voice cracked on, "Can't." And I reached out, slid the top document free and turned it so they could see. "Last will and testament of Margaret L. Kane." Jason stared at it like it had fangs. "You changed your will?" he said, barely keeping his voice down. "I redirected it," I said calmly. "Everything I have, the cabin, the savings, what's left of the life insurance, it's going elsewhere." Amber's smile was frozen now, thin and tight. "To who?" "To people who've never told me I was unwanted." Jason's hands clenched into fists on the table. "You don't mean that," he said, trying to sound reasonable. "Mom, we were upset. It was one message." I pulled out another sheet. A withdrawal receipt. $5,000 I'd transferred to help them with Amber's car. Then another, proof I'd paid for Max's first preschool term when Jason got laid off. Then another, emails, texts, photos, years of one-sided effort. This wasn't one message, I said. This was a pattern. The message just confirmed what you really think. Amber grabbed her napkin like it was a lifeline. You're blowing this out of proportion. Mr. Ellis cleared his throat, flipping to the notarized pages. This is a legal copy, he said. Filed with the county. The beneficiaries have been updated. There's nothing left to contest. Jason's face went pale. Amber hissed, You brought a lawyer to dinner? I raised an eyebrow. You brought exile to a group chat. The restaurant had quieted around us. Not completely, just that low hum of curiosity you hear when something is going sideways and no one wants to miss it. I folded my hands on the table. I didn't come here for a fight, I said. I came for closure. Jason looked at me, really looked, and I saw it. The moment he realized this wasn't a bluff. Amber opened her mouth, but Mr. Ellis was already closing the folder. I suggest you both speak with someone about your financial future, he said, standing. And just like that, the check arrived. They didn't touch it. Jason opened his mouth, but Mr. Ellis tapped the folder. This will is final. Filed. The cabin title is being transferred directly to St. Agnes Children's Hospital as part of a charitable property donation. That process has already begun. Amber blinked. What does that even mean? It means, I said, the place you take summer photos and call a family heirloom? You'll need permission to park in the driveway. Jason leaned back like he'd been slapped. I watched the truth settle into his spine. She's really doing this. Amber tried one last angle. You'll die alone. I smiled. No, Amber. I'll die free. The waiter returned with the check, hesitated, then placed it quietly at the center of the table. I slid my card forward without blinking. Jason moved to object, but I held up one hand. I'm not letting you pay for this dinner. I've done enough giving. The transaction processed in silence. We stood. Mr. Ellis buttoned his coat, calm and composed. I reached for my purse. Amber's voice followed me as I turned to go. So that's it? You're done? I paused at the edge of the table, looking back at them. I was done the moment you said I wasn't wanted. And then I walked out, into the night air, the sound of traffic, and the deep, unshakable quiet of finally being finished. The voicemail started before I even got home. Jason. Then Amber. Then a number I didn't recognize, but I knew. Lily's old preschool teacher, probably being used as a go-between. 41 missed calls in 2 days. They weren't angry, not at first, just confused. Mom, you've made your point. Can we talk? You blindsided us. It's not too late to fix this. We were stressed. You know how hard things have been. You're breaking up the family over a few words? What are we supposed to tell the kids? And then the text that made my hands clench around the phone. Don't do this just to hurt us. You're not that kind of person. That line stuck with me. You're not that kind of person. They still didn't see it, still thought this was a performance. A tantrum, something I'd undo if they just found the right mix of guilt and nostalgia. But they were wrong. I hadn't done this to hurt them. I'd done it because they already had. They didn't need me. They said so, in writing. So I let go. It wasn't vengeful. It was mathematical. I put in time, money, love, forgiveness, and the returns were lies, distance, conditional affection. I finally broke even by walking away. I kept my phone off most of that week. I cooked. I made banana bread for the church bake sale. I helped sort coats at the shelter drive. I took my neighbor's dog for a walk because his hip was acting up. And at night, I sat by the window with tea and a blanket and let the quiet settle inside me, not as punishment, but as peace. On the 7th day, I turned my phone back on. Nothing from Jason, just one text from Amber. We should have been more careful. I see that now. But you didn't have to go this far. I stared at it for a long time. I thought of Lily's laugh, Max's sticky hands, the cabin dock in early morning light. And then I deleted the message. We met one last time, not by plan, by proximity. The church was holding a fundraiser. tables of pies and used books and hand-knitted scarves. I had a corner table with banana bread and a few jars of homemade jam. Nothing fancy. Jason and Amber walked in around noon. Their entrance was quiet. No scene. Just two people trying to look normal in a place that no longer felt like theirs. Amber spotted me first. Her smile was tight, fragile. Jason followed. Slow. Eyes low. He looked older than I remembered. Or maybe I'd just never seen him without the glow of assumption. They came to my table like nothing had happened. "Hi, Mom," Jason said, voice low, careful. Amber nodded. "Everything looks so nice. I didn't know you were still baking." Still, I wiped my hands on a dish towel, slow and steady. "Every Tuesday," Jason glanced around. "Can we talk?" I met his eyes. For a moment, I saw the boy I raised, the one who cried when I left for night shifts, the one who asked for pancakes at dinner and made up bedtime songs. But love doesn't excuse erasure. So I said it, quietly, simply. "You told me to stay away. I will. But so will my money." Amber flinched like she'd been slapped. Jason swallowed hard. "We made a mistake." "No," I said. "You made a choice. I'm just honoring it." The room kept moving around us. Someone laughed near the raffle table. A child dropped a cookie. The world didn't stop. It never does. Amber's voice was small. "Is there really no way back?" I looked at the table. Banana bread stacked in neat rows, labels hand-tied. My life now was small, but it was mine. I picked up a jar of strawberry jam and placed it gently in front of them. "This is all I have left to give." Jason looked down at it like it might explode. Amber just blinked. Then I turned away. Not rudely, not dramatically, just finally. They didn't follow me. They stood there a moment longer, then drifted toward the exit like guests who stayed too long at a party that didn't want them. I never saw either of them inside the church again. I didn't tell anyone what happened. Not at church, not at the canteen, not at the grocery store where Mrs. Henson always asks how the grandkids are doing. I didn't need to, because they did. The story leaked, not all at once, not like a scandal, just cracks in a painted wall. It started with whispers in the school parking lot. A neighbor of Amber's sister overheard something. Then someone in Jason's office asked why he looked like he hadn't slept. Then the rumor reached the church prayer chain, of all places. Apparently she left everything to the hospital, the whole estate. Can you imagine? They didn't have the full story, just enough to know something broke, and that it wasn't me. Amber's Instagram got quiet. No more glossy family dinners, no more matching holiday pajamas or filtered captions about gratitude. Jason stopped showing up at Sunday services, and slowly people started to ask me questions, in soft voices, without judgment, just curiosity. "Is it true you're helping fund the new pediatric wing? Do you need help clearing out the cabin before winter? How did you stay so calm?" I always smiled. Tight, small, honest. Because I'm done explaining myself. And I was. One afternoon, Mrs. Wong and I sat on her porch, folding church bulletins. She leaned close and said, "I heard Amber's been calling around, trying to get ahead of it." I shrugged. "Let her talk." "You're not going to correct her?" I shook my head. "The truth holds still." She smiled, the way only women over 60 do, that mix of wisdom, sorrow, and amusement. By the third week, I had stopped checking my phone entirely. Not out of defiance, just peace. The world was finally rotating without needing my apology to do so. I had casseroles to prep. I had a hospital tour coming up. I had a child's drawing taped to my fridge that said, "Thank you, Miss Margaret," with a backwards G and a rainbow made of 6 browns. Jason and Amber? They had silence. They had each other. And, for the first time, they had to live in a world where I didn't show up to fix it. Mother's Day came. No card, no call, no knock at the door. I woke early anyway, dressed with care, not to impress, but out of respect for where I was going. A lavender blouse, soft earrings, comfortable shoes. At 9 a.m., I walked through the front doors of St. Agnes Children's Hospital. The volunteer coordinator greeted me like an old friend. She handed me a name badge that said, "Miss Margaret." and a rolling cart full of small gift bags, coloring books, socks with animals on them, soft fruit snacks, tiny puzzles. I walked the ward slowly, room by room, one bag at a time. No one asked where my family was. No one looked at me with pity. The kids grinned, some too tired to say much, some too small to understand. But their eyes lit up when they saw the stickers, the stuffed frogs, the glittery notebooks. One little girl, bald, bright-eyed, grabbed my hand and whispered, "Do you come here every day?" "Not every day," I said, "but often enough." She smiled like I'd said something magic. Afterward, I went straight to the church. The canteen was busy. Holiday weekends always are. People without invitations still need to eat. I tied on my apron and started ladling soup, chicken and rice, the good kind. No one asked what my children were doing. They just said, "Thank you." At the end of the shift, I sat on the back steps with a cup of lukewarm tea. My feet ached. My back twinged, but I felt whole. A boy from the shelter, maybe 12, maybe 15, walked by and nodded at me. "Happy Mother's Day, miss," he said. I nodded back. "Thank you." When I got home, I found a single envelope in the mailbox. No return address. Inside, a photo of Lily and Max. No note, just the picture. I studied it for a while. They looked happy. That's all I ever wanted. I didn't cry. I didn't frame it. I tucked it in a drawer behind the thank you letter from the hospital and whispered, "You wanted me gone." Instead, I found where I belong. Thank you for listening to Margaret's story. Have you ever witnessed a situation like this in your life or someone else's? Share your thoughts in the comments and tell us what city you're listening from.